via Lenin. The impending catastrophe and how to combat it. Famine is approaching. Unavoidable catastrophe is threatening Russia. The railways are incredibly disorganized and the disorganization is progressing. The railways will come to a standstill. The delivery of raw materials and coal to the factories will cease. The delivery of grain will cease. The capitalists are deliberately and unremittingly sabotaging, damaging, stopping, disrupting, hampering production, hoping that an unparalleled catastrophe will mean the collapse of the republic and democracy, and of the Soviets and proletarian and peasant associations generally, thus facilitating the return to a monarchy and the restoration of the unlimited power of the bourgeoisie and the landowners. The danger of a great catastrophe and a famine is imminent. All the newspapers have written about this time and again. A tremendous number of resolutions have been adopted by the parties and by the Soviets of workers, soldiers and peasants' deputies, resolutions which admit that a catastrophe is unavoidable, that it is very close, that extreme measures are necessary to combat it, that heroic efforts by the people are necessary to avert ruin, and so on. Everybody says this. Everybody admits it. Everybody has decided it is so. Yet nothing is being done. 6 months of revolution have elapsed. The catastrophe is even closer. Unemployment has assumed a mass scale. To think that there is a shortage of goods in the country is perishing from a shortage of food and labor, although there is a sufficient quantity of grain and raw materials, and yet in such a country, at so critical a moment, there is mass unemployment. What better evidence is needed to show that after 6 months of revolution, which some call a great revolution, but which so far it would perhaps be fairer to call a rotten revolution, in a democratic republic, with an abundance of unions, organs and institutions which proudly call themselves revolutionary democratic, absolutely nothing of any importance has actually been done to avert catastrophe, to avert famine. We are nearing ruin with increasing speed. The war will not wait and is causing increasing dislocation in every sphere of national life. Yet the slightest attention and thought will suffice to satisfy anyone that the ways of combating catastrophe and famine are available, that the measures required to combat them are quite clear, simple, perfectly feasible, and fully within reach of the people's forces, and that these measures are not being adopted only because, exclusively because, their realization would affect the fabulous profits of a handful of landowners and capitalists. And, indeed, it is safe to say that every single speech, every single article in a newspaper of any trend, every single resolution passed by any meeting or institution quite clearly and explicitly recognizes the chief and principal measure of combating, of averting, catastrophe and famine. This measure is control, supervision, accounting, regulation by the state, introduction of a proper distribution of labor power in the production and distribution of goods, husbanding of the people's forces, the elimination of all wasteful effort, economy of effort. Control, supervision and accounting are the prime requisites for combating catastrophe and famine. This is indisputable and universally recognized. And it is just what is not being done from fear of encroaching on the supremacy of the landowners and capitalists, on their immense, fantastic and scandalous profits, profits derived from high prices and war contracts, and, directly or indirectly, nearly everybody is now working for the war, profits about which everybody knows and which everybody sees, and over which everybody is sighing and groaning. And absolutely nothing is being done to introduce such control, accounting and supervision by the state as would be in the least effective. End of chapter 1.